I do.
Get underway. All right, I welcome everyone to this March 1st special meeting of the Rush Town Board. Will you please join me for our salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Town clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Chase,
Aye, or here, sorry.
Councilwoman Corbett,
Here.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Here.
Councilman Bolivar,
Here.
Supervisor Busey,
Here. I think at this point, we can call on our code enforcement officer, Doug Scarson, to give us some background and explain why we are here tonight.
Good evening. We are here tonight to follow the instructions of chapter 42 of the town code. And basically that chapter outlines tonight's reasons that we have, because we have received a complaint for a property at number 36 Pleasant Drive in the town of Rush back in January. And after a 30-day notification, we proceeded with the owners to move chapter 42 ahead and do what was needed per the code. Roughly in that code, it says that no person, firm, corporation, or association, which is the owner of a building or structure in the town of Rush shall cause, suffer, or allow or permit the said building or structure to become dangerous or unsafe to the public. If any building or structure now is or hereafter becomes dangerous or unsafe to the public for any cause whatsoever, the said owner shall repair or remove the building or structure. If the owner of any such building or structure fails to repair or remove it, the code enforcement officer of the town of Rush shall make a complete inspection and report in writing of the condition of the building or structure to the town board. The report that I made to the town board and copies that were served personally to the residents of the home at 36 Pleasant Drive basically stated that the unsafe conditions in a portion of the residence appears to be under construction without a permit and has no roof deck in place. Consequently, water is running into the area of the home that is primarily used as a living area, including the kitchen area. The roof on the remaining portion of the home seems to be decaying as a result of the open areas of the building, including a masonry chimney that could be collapsing. Section 304.1.18 of the New York State Property Code. The area that has no roof is allowing water to leak into the fuse panel wiring on the inside walls of the home. There are unknown circuits that are infected on the interior of the home. This is covered under the New York State Property Maintenance Code, section 604.3.1, 311, and 605.1. The interior of the home has water leaking into it, mold is present, and the general condition of the home is unsanitary and not in good repair. This is under New York State Property Maintenance Code 305.1. Those violations were also backed up by the notice of an unsafe building. I'll read that also. Dear Ms. Scott, as you know, I am the code enforcement officer for the town of Rush. On February 9th, 2023, I inspected the residential structure located at 36 Pleasant Drive, Rush, New York. Based upon said inspection, I determined that the structure constitutes an unsafe building pursuant to chapter 42 of the town code. My inspection report that is enclosed herein for reference, which I just read, details the particulars of why the structure is an unsafe building. You are hereby ordered to either repair the structure so that it is safe and secure, or remove the structure entirely. If you fail or refuse to repair or demolish the structure in 15 days, a hearing shall be held before the town board on 3/1/23 at 7 p.m. to determine whether the structure is an unsafe building. It is deemed to be an unsafe building, the town will immediately take action against the structure, and all costs and expenses associated with such removal shall be assessed against the property at issue. I hereby affirm the above to be true to the best of my knowledge. Doug Scarson, Code Enforcement Officer. We also posted the property with the property owner's husband on the 9th of February and turned over the set documents that we have covered in our meeting so far today. We have a multitude of pictures of the property which are available.
Yeah, Doug, can you mind walking over just briefly through what you see on these pictures?
Okay. I have a picture of the outside of the property facing the garage, and on the left side is a portion of a home which has a roof which is collapsing and missing behind the evergreen trees. The next picture, if you can find the one that says kitchen dining room wall, that is a wall that is adjacent to the open structure. I was there on the day that it was pouring quite hard. The rain was coming down the wall, and you could see the black mold that is growing in the kitchen area of the inhabited portion of the home. Another picture shows an electrical box in the basement, which was open to the sky. The water was running into that box. That box was disconnected from a main box. So we allowed some of the electric to stay on in the house to hopefully heat and not break any of the pipes, water pipes that were left in the house. However, we don't know what powers what, but the box that was filling up with water, as you can see in this picture, was disconnected by the homeowner from the main box. If you look at a picture that says open area front, this is the portion of the home that has no roof. And this is the condition of the interior. And it is currently, to the best of my knowledge, not an area that is used every day, although I do not really know that. And the other side of that picture would be a better picture of the front portion, showing you the front porch and the side of the house originally, where I had showed where the roof was either not present or collapsing. Those are probably,
Hey, you don't walk off.
I would say, those are probably the meat and potatoes of the picture.
Does the board have any questions that they want to ask Doug about what he saw?
So the panel boxes in those pictures. Is the one big box, is that still powered up?
No, sir, that was disconnected.
So-
Because at the present, at my inspection, it was filling up with water.
So this big one here. There's no power to that, that was disconnected?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the box that is actually powering the house. Is that
In
exposed
another
to any of the
location.
elements?
Is in another location and it's not receiving any of the elements.
Okay.
Doug, you've been in the fire marshal and code enforcement business for many, many years. And I wonder if you have ever seen a condition such as this, where the structure was inhabited.
I cannot say that I ever have, and I don't know how long this has been going on, but the whole thing was a total surprise to me, and I was very saddened by the whole thing.
So I guess there was a little confusion. Is this being occupied at this time?
We posted the house, and I have no proof that it is not being occupied.
Okay.
We posted the house do not occupy. And because of the unsafe condition of the home, but I cannot tell you whether it is or not.
The general living quarters. This, from what I've seen from the pictures, and I don't know, because it's basically 4 pictures to judge the whole house. The basic living quarters of the house, are they in as much disrepair as what we're seeing in these photos, or?
I did not enter the bedroom area of the home. Because quite frankly, when I got past the great room / kitchen area, I did not want to continue any further in the house. Because
Is this portion? Are the floor joists gone too, or
the ceiling, the roof,
the roof? I know the
the
roof's
roof is
gone,
gone.
but has it gotten to the floor too? The joists?
I can't say 100%. I mean, when I was walking, I was cognizant of watching out, but I can't say.
Okay.
I think a professional would be a person that could answer that.
Is there a step for that to take place for a professional?
Before I had left the home on the 9th of February, I had advised the homeowner's husband that they needed to get a engineer into the residence and give them a plan of what they needed to do in order to make the house habitable and safe. That it isn't my job to do that, and it's not the town's job to do that. It's just, it's really falls on their shoulders.
If I can just ask for clarification. So I'm asking about this one, the kitchen dining room wall. So this picture here of the black mold, this is the kitchen dining room interior wall that was being utilized as a kitchen dining room, functioning as part of a living
Living
space.
area.
Okay.
So the board has to recall Doug after that's spoken with the property owners, but if property owners or else who wants to speak, I think now's the time.
I'm not sure what to actually tell you. We did the addition, I'm not sure exactly, it's about 15 years ago, so all the description comes from the living room, which we decided we were going to tear down. That's why it fell in, we just didn't do it in time.
And nobody is living in that. Nobody is doing anything in there. We know that it's dangerous. We're not idiots. He holds 2 jobs. I hold down a job. I mean, we're not,
And we completely agree that
yeah.
it needs to come down, and the
Yes.
yard itself should have been kept cleaner, but I mean, obviously, I think that was why the initial complaint came in. And then he came over and we decided to agree to the inspection because it's a disaster. Because we built the addition and that's what we live in, and didn't want to redo the living room that was there just because of the condition
It's
the
already-
finished condition that it was in, it just wasn't something that we wanted to go forward with. So we just let it go into disrepair, which we shouldn't have. Where the roof meets the kitchen, which is the wall that has the picture of that you guys talked about.
About the
with
kitchen and the dining area.
I guess you can see it's OSB.
Yeah.
And at the
Yeah.
time, it's been leaking down there, and that is from where the roof meets. Where the living room that's deteriorating meets the kitchen.
And we've been doing like Band-Aid fixes on it a lot, just because, I mean,
yeah, 'cause to
Economy,
fix
money, I
that's
need-
as simple as pulling that down and putting up a new one and, you know,
Rectify.
at this point, we have it.
Yeah.
At this point, the roofs aren't touching anymore, the roof over the living room is gone.
like he's taken the time from
Yeah.
the time that he's inspected the home until now to do a lot of work in the home.
So
as
we
far
parked
as-
over the kitchen. There's no water actually currently coming into the kitchen.
Hmm.
The electric panel that we encountered that he says, had water in it. There wasn't actually any water in it, but it's a moot point because there weren't any live circuits. in it. Like I just left here, hour later, called him back and said, we've disconnected it. He came over. The voltmeter and made sure that there were no live circuits in that panel that we have a picture of, because it's in the basement that's under the deteriorating living room. Like, it didn't have to-
Mhm.
yeah, there's,
We have a whole brand new panel that we put on with the addition that's in the enclosed garage.
yeah, so there's no, at the time, there weren't any live circuits on that panel. There's definitely not now. He confirmed that it was disconnected.
And like I said, we totally agree with the fact that it looks like crap. We get that. We know that. It's.
Yeah, and I think part of the complaint was that construction was being done without a permit, but we weren't actually constructing. I was
We haven't.
just doing ongoing maintenance of that whole roof situation that's going on, which is, I shouldn't have left the scaffold there, but there's like no. You can forward see there's no building actually going on.
Yeah.
What we would do at this point is once the floor, because there's like two walls and then the floor joists on that living room that are still left there. What we would do is once that is off of there, have a proper inspection of the foundation, and if it's buildable, we'll just get an architect to redraw a living room and go at that point. We weren't thinking of doing that in February, though. We were thinking of like spring, summer of this year to do that. But I mean, now with the weather and the ice storm and like, it's a mud disaster. It's crazy. And I don't have time allotted for it, so. It's definitely not convenient right now, but
So just so you know, like John put the addition on, was 2,000 square feet? 1,500 with a
Can-
10 course
can-
basement.
Can you just
by
help me
himself.
understand, because if I look at this picture here, I know there's a garage
Yep.
here, correct?
Mhm.
Is that what you're talking about, is the addition, what's over the
Yeah, from
garage?
that front door right there, that from there all the way over is all the addition. And my husband built that himself.
yeah, it's like, it's a really deep drive and basement.
With some of my-
Two-car garage basement,
Just saying.
3 bedrooms,
Okay.
bathroom. That
And that's all in
Back
good
to
condition.
work.
If he would have walked past
you
the
know,
kitchen, he would have seen all the new.
hallway.
Built up.
Have you obtained the engineer's report that was requested of
Not
you?
yet.
The engineer was supposed to come 2 Thursdays ago and he had a heart attack and was in the hospital. I am not even kidding right now. This is what
I'm also though skeptical on getting the engineer report now. Like, what are we actually trying to accomplish with it? Because I'm gonna need another one for that foundation once the floor is off, even if he comes and looks at it now, I don't think you can actually. Like, see what's going on until all that stuff is out.
What we're trying to accomplish is to comply with the New York State requirement for health and safety of residents in a dwelling.
So what,
What's the engineer gonna do about saying anything about mold in the kitchen? Cause
Well-
as far as the old part of that house is concerned, like nothing's. Like, nobody's living in there, nobody's in danger being there, like, there's, you know what I mean, like the existing part of the home, we're all fine in that we're living in, and after the inspection, I've had to move myself and my 4 children to my elderly parents' home in Webster, and we're commuting, and I mean, he's got 2 jobs, I work a job and a half and look after the kids, so, I mean. And I'm trying to help my parents out to pay because I feel bad we're staying there. So it's like a really big hardship to not be able.
John, did you want to say something?
John Lundbeck, building inspector, what you're trying to accomplish with that engineer's report now. First of all, the fact that you're in there doing work on the place after it's been posted is illegal. You can't be in there, it's an unsafe structure. That can't happen.
So
And I'll get to the engineering inspection. Before I'm gonna issue you a building permit, you're gonna have an engineer give me a letter stating that this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen, the foundation's gonna happen. You've gotta have that remediated from mold now. I don't know when the original portion of the house was built. If it was before 1974, you're gonna get an asbestos survey done.
There's no original part of the house existing anymore.
that's why I'm confused about the
Why
engineering.
would we want to get an engineer to look at a part of the house that won't exist?
Because right now, the structure that exists is unsafe. And it's a hazard to where you think you can live in the house. So.
But it's not connected to the home. That's why I'm confused. No, that it has no, plays no part in our residing in the current.
You're
house,
using
I
the
guess.
kitchen and the large, I'll call dining room area, so it's a great room, whatever you want to call it. So you're using that area, you should not be using that area because it's already got a roof that's leaking and you can put a tarp over it all you want, but the damage has already happened. You've got black mold and you've got wiring circuits that have been compromised by the weather. So if you wanted my opinion, and I'm not an engineer, you should be taking a big huge saw and cutting down the side of that addition and just everything else over here is
Right,
gone.
right.
That's
That's
what,
But what John's saying is that when you go, before you do a demolition, you've got to have a report for his building permit. You just can't willy-nilly do it.
And you're gonna have to have the black mold remediated before you can demolish it. And that might have to be done by a special contract.
And like I told you, when we did the electric, we don't know what's affected in the rest of the house because we don't know what the circuits are in that box and everything, and I don't know how your heat's affected. I don't know all these answers.
you do because you came in with the volt meter and confirmed that there wasn't.
The voltmeter is an immediate indication of a specific circuit.
Right.
Maybe there could be shorts, there could be ground issues. And that's why we don't do electrical inspections as a municipality. We have one of 3 agencies do that for us, and which are all certified by NFPA 70 who do that.
So even though the supply line is gone,
If there's electrical in the house, I can't say that that is safe versus that over there. And it's gonna be looked at by an electrical or some sort of a design professional and state this is what we have. And we have to do that because if I let you do that without that, then we assume the liability.
Sir, what do you do for a living?
deliver mail and pizzas.
The reason I ask is we're talking about a needed fix immediately. We're not talking about something that can take a year or more to fix.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, if we had the permit and the living room would be gone in a week and the roof would be over the kitchen in a week after that, and when the weather gets nicer, we'd have that foundation inspected and either fill it in or build on it. I mean, that's why we're looking for like what our next step needs to be, because right now, like, we can't continue. They're commuting to high school from Webster. And like, I mean, she works towards the center of the city or the county, so it's the same commute. But really, it's like we need to get back south Rush, and we're looking to what we need to do that.
So are you saying there's another whole section that you say is livable, where you bedrooms?
Mhm.
What is there that you're saying is
I would just-
separate from what we see here?
It's basically.
3 bedrooms, bathroom. Closets, hallway.
But that's
Like,
all that
entryway.
may be habitable? Cause you're saying it all connects to the same kitchen
That's
that's,
all under new construction, and I would debate. Cause you mentioned that the roof is deteriorating on the other part of the house, but there's like. The whole other section of the house is 10-year-old roof, you can come over and look at it and see that it's like brand new roof.
I can't get up and look at them.
Like, it's
Right,
like,
but
you
we
can see it from
can't
the.
get kicked out of our home for this.
You can see it from the,
Like,
you can see it from the yard.
You can't gauge the structural stability or soundness of any element just by looking.
Right.
We need.
No, but we're living in a structure that's already been inspected, it hasn't been touched since it was inspected. Since we got our C of O.
I don't know.
But you have records here, right? We had to put in a permit and do everything to do all that.
As you are doing now, you're doing work on your own without permits. I don't know what else has been done in any portion of that house. And I'm not gonna assume the liability that everything is exactly as it was when you were inspected.
I mean, he just did the inspection, he came up with the problem.
So if I can butt in, I think the problem is that, you know, to the town, you can correct me if I'm wrong, right, the structure is just one building. I mean, I understand that you have an addition and a not addition, but to the town's purposes, it's all an unsafe structure, because you have part of it be unsafe, right? So I don't think it's possible for the town to say, well, half of the structure is unsafe and the other half is not unsafe. For town's purposes and for law's purposes, structure is the structure, right? So I don't want to step on the board's toes here, but one of my questions would be, let's assume that if you get an engineer's report, how much time do you think would be required to remove that portion of the house that it sounds like you admit is unsafe?
Oh, absolutely, it's something, the week. A week from the report, that'll be gone.
Well, I'm not sure, only because. To you and me, it might be as simple as that, but there are steps that the building inspector,
We gotta get an engineer's report and then we have to get a building. And the black mold might be-
a demolition.
It would definitely have to.
It just.
What do you
depends
mean by
how-
this mold remediation? If it's not in part of the house
You've got
that,
black mold. It's gotta be removed by a licensed contractor. I can't just let you come in and start knocking down walls and having mold, you know, introduced into your neighbors or anybody else.
Is this portion of the basement connected to the basement that's under the addition?
Yeah, well, there's a door. It's a block wall, but there's a door.
Just a doorway accessing now?
And again, an engineer is gonna tell you how you're gonna separate basement walls from each other safely without.
Well, none of us are experts and myself, I need to be able to see what,
I'm just trying to see what the
Structural engineer.
layout.
right, no, I agree. I wish there was kind of a footprint of the house that we could look at. But ultimately, I need to see a report.
So our first step right now, before I can make any real determination on this. I guess what we need to determine, is we need to get an engineer's report.
Yeah.
What kind of time frame do we need?
Well,
What are we-
I have one, I haven't made an appointment with him, he said he'd help us out, meaning like he might come over very quickly.
that
It was
was one of the
scheduled
architects.
for
Yeah. that's
either
Thursday.
last Thursday or was it last or the one before?
Which
But
one?
he said he needed 3 weeks of nothing, it's been almost 3 weeks, like he's ready to go.
Okay, well, if we gave you a deadline to get that engineer in there and get a report, do you think that if you gave him a hard date, like, listen. We need to get this done, this is something like
Yes,
we need
yes,
to do,
yes.
could we get that done?
I find that more than reasonable.
Okay. So as a board tonight, then, should we make a resolution where what kind of time frame are we looking at then? What do we want to do? John? Doug, I mean, is that reasonable then? I saw the resolution, but I mean, we need to come up with the actual time frame to plug into the
Right, I mean,
resolution, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So I provided a resolution that, you know, basically as blank with respect to how the board wants to move forward with this, right? I mean, I think tonight, it sounds like the homeowner admits that the building's unsafe. And the town certainly is within its rights, to say, hey, we're gonna, to the extent it's unsafe, we can go in there and repair, remove the building and assess the cost of the property, but if the homeowner is willing to do it, then it makes more sense possibly to the board to have the homeowner go through that process and give them time to do that, which is part of what it's going through.
30 days to get the engineering report together and try to develop a plan.
Could we give it 30 days, but not have to wait that long? Let's say they get it done in 7, then could we,
If they
and
deliver it in 7,
then you,
good.
then your guys,
I think 30 days. is enough long period of
I do
time.
too.
right, so I mean, I guess I'm not opposed to the 30 days, I'm really hoping it would be a lot.
Yeah, that's what I
quicker,
was
like,
thinking.
like within 7 to 14, honestly, is where I'd like to see it, but I don't mind giving them an extra grace period to get
To
this,
try to get it together.
yeah, but I would really. I feel 7 to 14 days. If you could get somebody in there and look at it, I mean, you guys are itching to get back in there, and I understand
And it
that
has,
it would be
I'll
very
ask
difficult.
Robert, it has to be a certified,
Mhm.
what type of credentials do they need to make
Whatever
sure?
report we're gonna get from the engineer is gonna have his stamp. And his
Okay.
name on it, just like a drawing.
Okay.
Also, we want to make sure that conditions are such that no one goes in there. No one goes in there to do any work. During that 30 days.
Well, that's already done. They already,
I just heard tonight that they're in the market, that it was supposed to. So they should not be.
And that's what I heard, so that's
So,
why I'm saying
yeah,
what I'm saying.
I wasn't gonna continue to let the water go until this date.
Yeah, we weren't gonna make more issues on our own than we already had. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but I'm not gonna turn a 10,000 issue into a 30,000.
At this point,
Just
time,
not
you're
gonna happen.
hard, because if you go in that house again, you're basically trespassing.
Okay,
No,
Oh,
I'm
I
saying that-
understand. I get it. I get it. You're just being a little
So if we,
over the top, I think.
when this happened, this is gonna cause an issue because we have stuff in the house that we need. Do we need to get a moving truck right now and take all of our stuff out of it? Or-
that was my other concern.
Or do we need to call an
Because we
attorney?
have 4 kids, like, there's
Yeah.
so much of our stuff.
And it's not in the.
And it's fair, But like, if they need a school book to inframe.
Right.
or-
Well,
Is
leave-
it
That's Robert.
imminent harm? I mean, like,
No.
if they're in there, that's the posting the property.
My concern is that the way they enter the home is in the area of the unsafe portion of the house. There is no stairs in the front of the house where the new addition is. So if there was stairs in that area, you could basically enter the home into the new addition area through up those stairs. But the way you enter the home right now, I'd have to say no. You should not be going into that home alone. Because of the unsafe condition.
So you're saying, Doug, this
Yeah.
front door that has no stairs,
That
that
has no
should,
stairs.
should have something across it that.
Well, that's what, if John and I were expecting that house, we would have had.
Should further access to the house, is that?
We could go through the basement.
The
right,
basement and the
upstairs.
addition part, in the new part, there's an access through the basement.
Mhm, to get upstairs.
But I mean, there's 3 doors, the one that he doesn't like, and then the front door, and then there's another back door, which is higher up. It would be easiest to just throw a couple steps on that door right there and.
But we can't. So in the meantime, we can go through the basement. To the garage.
I will- I'm going to defer to the town attorney on this.
Yeah, I think the problem with in terms of it's an unsafe structure, it's an unsafe structure regardless of. If we get in certain rooms that are safe and aren't, I mean, it's an unsafe structure, it's an unsafe structure. It's danger associated, I mean, that's the idea. So, I don't know how else to remedy that. I don't think the town can split the property into, part of it is safe, and part of it is unsafe. It's an unsafe structure, it isn't. So if anything, it's all the more reason to get an engineering report and get the unsafe part of it fixed as soon as possible.
Why would the personal items be, have any more threat in the next 30 days than they have in the last however long it's been in this condition. And I personally don't want to see a whole family going in to save their possessions and run the risk of something happening then.
I'm sorry, I guess I just feel like this is being blown way, way out of proportion. It's like, we're gonna come and look at the house. Like, this is being blown, yes,
It's not
it
a
is,
matter-
sir,
we're
I'm
not
sorry, you
worried
can
about-
shake your head all you want, but you didn't walk through the rest of the house. You didn't even walk through the rest of the house and get pictures of it. You just brought what you saw that you didn't like.
The reason for that was because
Oh, God.
half of the houses. I'm not gonna sit there and go 60%, 40, 35.
Okay, but you understand by you not doing that has put us in a really bad situation?
But you can't live in half of the house when the other half of the house isn't. You don't want to, I think the attorney already said.
I understand, we're talking black and white issues with you, so I get it, I understand, because that's your job, that's what you need to do, so I can't argue with you.
So at this point, can we move forward with just getting, I want you guys to be able to get back in there as soon as possible. So can we get that engineer's report as quickly as possible so that you can submit it to John?
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll get going on this stuff and get everything to get you guys back.
Yeah.
I think that's what we all want.
But in the meantime, no one should be going
Well, yeah,
there.
so for like 3 days from now, my daughter needs a dress. But, and it's in her closet at the house that we can't go, like. Are we just not supposed to do that again, or, I mean, obviously, we're not, but,
Right.
so you're telling me we need to get a moving truck tonight and fill it with all.
You can't even do it tonight. You can't say that to us. You can't do it tonight. That's.
So,
I understand what you're saying, but I'm just telling you.
no, I get it, my next question is like,
I feel like maybe at the onset of this. A little more information should have been provided
mhm,
for
this
us,
was very, very poor,
because
poor communication about what our next steps were until right now. Very, poor. I'm
Sometimes
very
when-
disappointed.
Sometimes when you're faced with unsafe conditions, you have to work much faster and you don't have time for all the protocol. You've got to take steps immediately. and-
That's fabulous, but I mean, we're doing immediately right now. What we're have this discussion right now about whether or not we could be there. Take stuff and all that, like that should have happened when he was there.
But I thought he posted it.
Yeah, he did, but there was no discussion about you cannot go in. You may absolutely not go in, you can't go in and do repairs, you can't come in and get stuff, like nothing. Was really said or communicated about that. It was just like, well, you can't be here, sorry. And then one day to call my parents and say, moving back with 4 kids and I don't have no room. So I mean, I just be there for you guys in the future. I mean, you can't just turn a family of 6 like that, I mean, I get it, especially when I know the circumstances and what the house looks like.
yeah, I understand
What it
your black and white issue and like.
Like I get it,
Safe,
but there's
like,
more than just that.
we've been living in 80% of that house, which is completely safe. And now we have to move out because the living room. Because,
Looks like
I
that.
mean, you see it, the pictures, like. It seems like that little thing is causing us to not be able to live in the rest of the house, which is fine. And I get the electric and all that other stuff, but. There's like no circuits on that wall. There's not a single wire even on that wall with the OSB where you can see the water leaking out. There's no electric circuits on that wall. You can visually confirm. And there's no water anywhere else in the house. You can visually confirm. That there's nothing there. And if that piece of OSB that has the black stain on it were to just not be there anymore, that there wouldn't even be a mold question, really. And so now we're going through all this just because of that. Which I feel like it should have been slightly different, especially with the ease
pretty
of
drastic
disconnecting that box and he confirmed it. I don't know, it seems like you should have been like, listen, you guys need to get rid of that living room. And you need to pick up the sticks and that brush pile that, because we took some wood that was never cut, like I get all that, but we didn't even get to that because of this.
So yeah, so the property maintenance issues are certainly not the focus tonight, right? It's the safety issue, and that's what we're here for, so. Once that's resolved, the other property maintenance violations, those can go through the normal code enforcement proceedings. But this is a separate proceeding specifically because the code enforcement officer the house to be unsafe, right, or the structure to be unsafe. So,
And is it possible to have him come over and re-inspect and deem that 80% safe, but that living room not safe?
you're gonna,
Overall, it's gonna be, the structure is unsafe. It's, can't split it in part and part.
Unfortunately, you're connected by that foundation, which makes it,
It's one dwelling unit under the state code. And that one dwelling unit has, as far as I can see, way too much mold. And who knows what else. And, you know, the inspector didn't create the condition. He just did his job and inspected it. And, the inspection doesn't bode well for going in the dwelling. It's just,
Well, it also helps that you don't have pictures of what the rest of the dwelling looks like. It helps that you don't have pictures of what the rest of the dwelling even looks like.
well,
I mean, I guess that's like,
again, I've got to say, it's one dwelling unit.
Yeah,
There's not separate units.
That's how you-
so if I need to have my attorney contact somebody about this, who do I have in contact? You give a card, please. Yeah, thank you.
I still, like I said, I know we were sort of getting close to nailing down a time frame by which to have the engineering report done and moving forward towards having this, resolved. I think Dan said well, that that's, Councilman Chase said well, that's what the board wants to see. So,
Putting it off through negotiations or litigation is not going to help. the
I'm not
situation.
trying to put anything off. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm not trying to put anything off. I just want to get in my house and make sure that my rights as a protected tax-paying citizen to this town are protected.
And there's
That's
not a member of this
That's
board
all.
who doesn't want that, but we want you to
I,
do it.
I understand that. I
in a
just,
safe
I want to
way.
make sure that my rights are protected and that the house that I purchased and paid for, which is almost paid off, that I can get into it when I need to. That's all. I understand that you guys all have a job too. I get it. I work at a school. I deal with parents all the time and like, I get it. So, I know what you guys are doing and I don't fault any of you for it, for as emotional and angry as I might sound. It's a circumstance, so. I don't want you guys to think I don't appreciate, you being here, but
We appreciate you coming as well. And we understand what you're going through.
thank you.
Back to the engineering report.
Right.
Get it as quick as you can and
Can we, where
we
would
can
we
move
end
forward.
it in the draft resolution? Or,
So. So for instance, the resolution that I have is that, again, the town board can do whatever it wants to tonight, but the town board determines the structure constitutes unsafe building. Pursuant to town code chapter 42, and the structure may be removed by the town, pursuant to the town code, if the owner on which the structure is situated fails or refuses to, this is where I wrote, repair or remove the structure by blank, right? I think you could probably word that to say, if the owner of the property, if the owner of the property on which the structure is situated fails to get an engineering report by X date and get a, mold remediated by X date, and whatever the specifics are, we can set down a time frame. And as long as that time frame is met, then the town won't do anything to, take action to remove or repair the structure by itself.
you think we'll just give a time frame for the engineering report, we'll leave them, because we can't, I don't know if we could put a time frame on the rest of it until we get that, right? And then John can issue the
Agreed.
permit, is that,
Part of issuing the permit is gonna have, what's the remediation plan? I mean. Are we completely taking that structure off? If we are, then we have to add, be a legal dwelling, you've gotta have bathroom facilities, you've gotta have kitchen facilities, you've gotta have. HVAC systems, so that's all gonna be part of what the engineer tells us is going back in. there. So it's not just gonna be, we can cut the wall here, knock it down, and we're good to go. That's for the demolition. then to rebuild it, he's gonna have to tell us, this is how everything is gonna be put back together.
But
That's what I need for the building.
But that's all through the engineering report.
Yes.
So if we just set a date for when we want that report
I
by,
can do this, I can help them out. If I get a report that says this is how we're gonna separate the building, I can issue a demolition permit. that
Right.
Says, okay, we can get rid of this in anticipation of getting the documents to get this. rebuilt.
but as far as setting any other deadlines, as far as when we want demolition done or this or that, I don't think we're at a position to do
The
that
quicker
right
I
now.
can get, engineering stuff, I mean, you've got two basic reports that are coming. How do we separate it? How do we build it?
Yeah, but that'll come in the engineering report. Once we get that, then we can
What I'm
look
trying
and
to
say,
is that you don't want to give them the same 15 days. Let's get the demolition stuff done and, you know, you can get the rest of it drawn up. And I don't know how.
okay, but I think that if we can we'll set this deadline for the engineering report. Once we get that, if it's in 2 weeks and we get an engineering report and John can say, okay, I have the report, I see how we're gonna do this. This is what the next step is, then you can say, all right, well. You've got X amount of days to get this complete. But until we get the engineering report, I don't think we can go forward with any other deadlines.
You're basically 100% correct. So that
I
covers
agree
all
with
of
that.
it.
So let's get the engineering report first and then we'll move forward from there after we look at that and see what our next step should be, I think.
What about some kind of stipulation for enter at your own risk? They want to get their stuff out. Can't do that.
I'm not signing the matter. I mean, if Robert wants to sign it, that's up to him.
I'm not
Someone should
aware, I'm not
comment
aware
there.
of anything like that. I can look into whether or not that is even possible, but my inclination is that probably not possible. But I can look into it,
Well, they obviously need their stuff.
you know,
So
but I
either,
think-
either we're gonna not know anything about it or give them permission to go into their own house and get their stuff. I mean,
I think that's risky.
I know.
I have a tendency to kind of agree with Dan on this. I mean, I know what it would be like
Yeah, I
having
mean,
young kids.
yeah,
If quickly I was told I couldn't be in here anymore. And maybe I didn't think that it was.
Yeah.
Maybe you were under the impression, I guess I could see being under the impression maybe that you couldn't live here, but thought you could still go in there and get stuff. Then you probably weren't preparing for the long term of not having all this stuff.
Yeah.
So if there was any way where you could, with supervision or something, maybe.
I can look into it. I mean, I can look into it.
Just something just to say, look, we were living off of a duffel bag of clothes that we grabbed. Cause we thought we were gonna be out of here for a week.
yeah.
So a fire, like, I don't know, I don't even wanna suggest anything, but. Is there some sort of,
Well, with the engineer's report, why couldn't we ask for a
You should ask.
analysis of whether or not it's safe to go in? Now, the mold is a separate issue.
Sure, I mean, that's not right. The unfit is different than imminently unsafe, right? Which is what, that's why I asked Doug, is it you in imminent danger when you walk in, and the answer was yes, so. That's where it's like, I can look to see if there's something that says if something is imminently unsafe, you can still enter, with supervision or whatever, but the idea of the code is certainly something's imminently unsafe, they don't even win.
so, John or Doug? So, or. Robert, if the engineer went in and you guys requested the engineer. To say, if they access this portion of the house and come in here to retrieve. Belong,
Then it'd be safe, right?
is that? If the engineer's report said access,
Nope.
You don't hear, I am not signing off on anything. This has been legally posted. And the only way I'm signing off is if whoever makes that determination says they accept all responsibility and provide insurance waivers to the town of Rush. Because this has been posted according to New York State law, and I'm not going to sign off on it. It's okay to go with this.
I think we can't give the impression that we believe it's safe when we don't have that assurance, Dan.
well, that's
And
what
if
we're asking.
somebody
the
gets
engineer
hurt,
for.
No, I know, if someone gets hurt, That would be a terrible thing on our shoulders if we thought it would be okay to do. We don't know enough,
I understand that, but the engineer does.
hopefully. But,
Hopefully, it's a certified engineer.
and then
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
if it's something like at your own risk, which our attorney said he will look
Yeah, I'll
At
look into.
whether that can be,
Okay.
I will look into that. I mean, obviously, the idea of this proceeding is to have the homeowners have an opportunity to express why it isn't, you know, an unsafe structure. But it sounds like they acknowledge that it is an unsafe.
We absolutely do not.
We do not
acknowledge
acknowledge
it's unsafe structure. Like I said, we've been living in 80% of the house. And he came over and said, can't go in any of it.
Okay, so part of,
Because
part of.
we
the
never
structure
go
is
in.
unsafe.
This
Never
is where the
done.
dispute is, but we're trying to push forward. So we got 4 kids. Like 25 miles away. They have to go to school in the morning in Henrietta.
No, I understand that. Again,
We completely disagree with the unsafe. I like what you said about imminently unsafe, wherever you could still go in, that kind of thing, sure. Like, but we took care of anything that was not on, that was.
Anything that was
unsafe.
written on that
The
report.
electric
was
was
taken care of.
completely disconnected. Within an hour of him looking at it. He said, yes, if you can get an electrician to come over and pull it out and pull the supply line right out, and there's not a single circuit on that, well, we're disputing the unsafe part. I definitely do not agree with that. I agree, don't walk in the living room that's falling in, that doesn't have a roof, yeah, but I get, you guys can't separate the structure, but like, we've been living in the 80%, so I disagree that 80% is unsafe.
So,
So don't tell me, don't.
no, I wasn't trying to worry
imply
it
that
out. No,
We
I
agree with
apologize.
unsafe,
I-
because we don't.
I thought I understood that you agreed that part of the house was not safe, but I won't put words in your mouth. That's not, how you know, it doesn't really matter. Regardless, if the board decides that the structure is an unsafe structure, right, that's the idea of the proceeding here tonight, is to make that determination. How the board then proceeds, if it is determined an unsafe structure, and that's something we can look into, right? So if, to the extent that an engineering report would give the capability of a homeowner to enter an unsafe structure, then I don't, you know, I don't know that answer.
Wouldn't you want the engineering report before you made that determination?
They can't-
Well, I
Once-
mean, that was part of what we asked for, right? Just
Well,
that
they
this
did,
was
but it
not-
wasn't clear that they did, so we did not take the necessary steps to get out of the house. Because it was never clear that we weren't supposed to be
You
there.
did have. We did have the engineering report scheduled for last Thursday.
I understand.
Now I'll get it for,
It would certainly have been helpful, you know, for this hearing, no doubt about it, but again, right now what the board has in front of it is an inspection report from the code enforcement officer saying that in his opinion it is unsafe. So
what if we postpone this hearing until the 7 to 14 days after the engineering? Report.
I was kind of under the impression that we probably would have another hearing. After that to discuss what the future steps were as far as timing for the other stuff.
Well, certainly, we want to become
Yeah.
familiar with the engineer's
After
report.
the engineering report.
But I want to explain something, and I hope I can do it easily. And that is, the inspectors have one job, and that is to inspect. They are not allowed to get into prescriptive suggestions. What I mean by prescriptive suggestions is, just replace that wall and everything will be cool. They can't do that. Everything that they do has to be prescribed by a licensed professional. So when you are saying 2 or 3 times, he didn't tell you anything more, probably because he didn't want to get his neck in a noose.
But
We're
we
not
don't know
necessarily
whether or not we
talking
can
about
live
the
in
actual,
it.
like,
And-
building steps. It was more of like the administrative steps.
Mhm,
of
The
the
procedure of
process.
what needs to happen,
I know, like, that's not,
no idea.
I
Just
feel like
wanted
the
to be clear.
administrative roadmap
Mhm.
could have been laid out a little bit. I think that's what I was talking about. As far as that knowing a little bit more
Mhm.
a couple weeks ago.
Like to walk into someone and say like, oh, can't live
So-
here and walk away with like no resources,
In the
not
same
telling you what
respect
to
that you
do.
said the engineer could possibly say, like, we could go in, can he just say that 80% of this house is completely fine and that living room needs to go or is going in the next week? Like, is that something
I don't know if an engineer will certify or not certify. I don't know.
But that's a possible certification, and then if you were to say that, we could come back here and you could say, well, yeah, I just take off that living room and. Like. You put up the plastic.
They won't know until they see them.
Yeah, I don't know.
They can't say
That's
anything.
that's
Until they see
speculation. I
that.
don't know. I can't speculate. But yeah, I just don't, I don't know what the engineering report's gonna say or how the report's gonna handle it. I was saying that in reference to the fact, the question that was asked of me was, if we get a report that says you can go in part of it, can we let them in? And I don't know that. I mean, I've never encountered a situation where the building was declared partially safe, partially unsafe. I don't know that.
I think we should set a date. Have the owners pursue professional opinion. And schedule another date for us to talk about it based on the engineer's report. Because I hear some things here that I'm not comfortable with. And I don't get to say all I want to say because I'm not comfortable with it. And until we get that official report, our hands are tied. And we don't want to violate state code. So I say we should set a date, have them get the report, reconvene, make a determination based on the content of that report. Anybody have a problem with that?
No,
If I could just ask for clarification, so we all understand the process, so. They had 15 days in our code to respond, and so we're having this meeting, this hearing tonight. Option A is to table it, Robert, is that what we're talking about?
It sounds like you'd be adjourning the hearing or tabling the hearing to a different day. Which
Okay,
is certainly the board's prerogative, but realize that you're not making a determination of whether or not the building is unsafe.
so it is currently posted as what? Unsafe. So the purpose of this hearing was to determine if it was unsafe or not. So if we are adjourning or tabling this hearing, is that posting still protecting the town? So if something were to happen,
Because I understand that that posting was because, which was separate than the notice that was read, right? That's a separate. So that notice was because of it was imminent danger. So that, yeah, I mean, that doesn't go away because we're adjourning, adjourning.
So it remains that way.
Right.
Until we get. Yeah. We deem it to be safe. Stays that way, it doesn't
do you
go.
have a question? I heard you say something.
No, he answered.
Okay, thank you. So. Did that clarify? It clarified for me. Dan, did that clarify? Did that clarify for you? So. If we say 30 days, that's a long stretch of time because I think that's too long because. We need to then review it. They need to
We'll do
review it. You
We're
need
gonna want
to.
it faster than that. And I don't wanna have it tomorrow and then have to wait 6 more days, like.
Right.
I would like a little flexibility to be able to move quick.
I think that we could set. Could we set up? Could we reconvene this meeting like pretty quickly without, I mean, what's the time frame we need to post for the public meeting? Yeah,
Posting goes on a Thursday. And for the next week, but I have to have it all set and ready to go.
Is there
So-
any kind of exception for an emergency?
could you guys guarantee us you guys could have this done in 2 weeks? The engineer's report done in 2 weeks?
I mean, I don't wanna use a different engineer, but if I needed to, I probably could, cause it doesn't seem like. Generally, they're very busy. I called a bunch and they all seemed like they could be ready to go.
So could we do this for,
The 15th,
is that the next,
That's-
it's 2 weeks?
that's the
from-
third, yeah, that's the third Wednesday.
I'm fine with that.
That's the second Wednesday
That's the third.
or third.
Of
So it's
March.
between
Oh,
town
from-
board
Okay,
meetings.
Oh.
between town board.
Okay.
Let me just ask. as far as, so this report, who would they turn that report into?
Town board.
So to the town clerk,
Goes to, yeah, town clerk.
town clerk,
Then she could. distribute it.
she can distribute it.
You get a copy of it, John?
So, again, I'm working through the process,
I
so
appreciate that, thank you.
let's say you couldn't get it till the 10th. Today's the 1st. Gets, I don't know what day of the week that is. Is that-
She had to have it by the 9th.
Get it to the town clerk by the 9th.
In order
Is
to
that a
post.
Friday?
That's a
Thursday.
Thursday.
That's a Thursday. By the 9th. So our town clerk can, or we have
Post.
to make we'll make a resolution tonight. To schedule the public hearing for the 15th. If you can get that report to her by the 9th, she can disseminate it to all the parties for our review. Am I saying that okay? And then we would come back here on the 15th with that report in hand to have that discussion. Would it be a help to have that engineer here? I'm just asking, I don't know.
Say that again. the last
Would
part.
it be of help to have the engineer they hire here to help answer questions?
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
It's up to them and-
That's what I'm saying, it's up
Yeah,
to you.
her-
I'm just trying to put all the ducks in a row.
I mean, that's gonna come with the cost, I'm sure.
Oh, okay.
Up to the board, how they want to handle it. I mean, what you're doing is in essence is adjourning this hearing, right? So if they come, if let's, I'm certainly not saying this is gonna be the case, but if on the 15th, there's no for whatever reason, there's no engineering report, we're in the same situation. Where you either make a determination that it is an unsafe structure or not, right? The only thing that determining this an unsafe structure gives the board, the town, the ability to repair or remove the structure, without need of the homeowner, right? I mean, the board can't right now tear down the house, right? Unless they make a determination that it's an unsafe structure, and then they can do that. I'm not saying that the board wants to, there's obviously a cost associated with that for the town as well, and an RFP probably, the Public Works project to have a contractor come out and do that. I mean, it's a process. So certainly not happening tomorrow, even if you were to declare it an unsafe structure today. But what you are in essence doing is moving this hearing to a different day. So again, I would want Doug to go through the process that he went through today to put on the record, the information that he put on the record today about why he believes it's an unsafe structure. So
I have to go by our inspector's report. And he told me it's an unsafe structure. And I'm not gonna go and check on it. I wouldn't know what to look at. I have to take his word for it. He's been a professional in that field for,
So I think what the supervisor is saying is that the determination's already been made, now we're just waiting for the path. So the path is engineered. So that's all we're waiting for. So in 15 days, if we have the engineer's report, then we go from there. If we don't, then the handwriting's on the wall.
For the town board to determine it's an unsafe structure
Right.
in a formal resolution.
Right.
And even if it's determined that it's an
wait, say it again.
The determination has been made for this unsafe structure. The code reads that the 15 days will be a hearing. It doesn't say that at that point in time, the town board will determine if it's an unsafe structure. What we're here tonight to do is to say that we acknowledge the unsafe structure and we determine a path forward and them determining that it's an unsafe structure.
I hear you.
It's already been.
Okay, so.
right.
Okay.
That was kind of my confusion on that.
No, we kept saying we're here tonight to determine. if
Right,
it's
but
Yeah, but I,
Yeah,
good, thank you.
okay, that's
We're determining a path forward for.
right, because I felt like when I heard that, then I felt like it's like, well. We're trying to determine a path forward to tell them it's an unsafe structure, then, but that's not it. We're trying to resolve.
I
the
guess
issue.
that's a really good lesson for everybody here, because that's exactly how I felt after they came through the house. I had no idea what was happening. And nothing I read here made much sense. It kind of contradicted itself too, unless I got an attorney. So that's just for future reference. If you decide to push people, have people leave their house, you might want to make sure that. They have all
But
this
it did
part.
state that in the
Crystal clear.
letter, that it was determined to be an unsafe structure.
But I don't know what that means. Nobody said you need to there was nothing saying, I don't know, it was not very clear. I have about 3 or 4 different sheets of paper, you read them all, it's not extremely clear what I need to do in 15 days, what I'm supposed to do in 30 days, what's happening exactly at the hearing, and I think I'm not the only person, the people that are here don't really, aren't sure, so.
It didn't say you can't go back in.
No.
So.
Well, no, it was posted.
It was posted.
It was posted in addition to the notice, so it was stated, you can't go in there, it's unsafe. And here's a hearing, but I mean, you went and tried to get an engineer, so you knew you had to do something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so who wants to read this and how do we do it?
Well, I don't think we need
We're,
to. I
no,
think
we're gonna adjourn this meeting
Oh.
forward because we're gonna develop a path forward.
Okay.
And we're gonna do that in 2 weeks.
So everything is status quo.
So
Okay.
2 things, we'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting tonight. And then a second motion to schedule the public hearing for March, or public hearing for March 15th.
And then we'll get the engineer report to you on for the night. Also, as a side note, this code enforcement letter doesn't have our proper address on it. I don't know if you guys want to fix that for your records.
You notice it's like.
All right, so I'll make a motion to adjourn
During the hearing. to March.
adjourn the hearing to March 15th, 2023 at 7 PM.
I'll second.
Councilman Chase,
Aye.
Councilwoman Corbin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Morelli,
Aye.
Councilman Oliver,
Aye.
Supervisor QC.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to schedule a special public hearing, or do we not have to do that because we just adjourned it to March 15th?
Yeah, you just adjourned it, so it's make another
Okay,
motion, so.
It's all in
Sorry.
there. It's in there.
It's gonna be a continuation of what we did tonight, right? I think by doing it that as well, then we don't have to go through the steps pretty much. It doesn't have to be restated everything again, because just continuing the proceeding. If we were to schedule a new hearing, right, then you'd have to redo it all. over.
so we don't have to schedule a special, okay, all right.
Okay. Having no further business to discuss at this meeting, I adjourned this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you on the 15th, and again, Pam Busey,
Yeah.
town clerk,
Yep.
get it at reported.
I thank you guys very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, actually, if you want.
I can. Thanks.